One of the most useful features of a database is being able to query the database and extract certain records. What I'm going to do is use the Northwind database. I'll just close the relationships window which we were just looking at, and I want to create a new query. To create a new query, click the Create tab in the ribbon, and then in the Queries group, click Query Design. In the same way as we go to the Tables group and choose Table Design for creating tables, we use Query Design for creating queries. When I do so, I'm then asked with the Show Table window what table I would like to query, and I'm going to choose the Customers table, and I'm going to click Add. I'm going to start by just querying one table, so I'll click Close. This table can then be resized just by dragging the bottom right corner so I can see all the fields in this table. Now what I do is I choose the fields that I'd like to extract from this particular table. And so what I'm after is company name, and there's many ways to add fields, but I'm just going to double click company name. By double clicking company name, it appears as the first field in what they call the QBE, which is the Query by Example grid. So I have the field company name, and it's from the table Customers. I'd also like to add the field contact name, so I double click contact name, and I double click city, and I double click country. So I've effectively asked for these four fields to be extracted from this particular table, and it's the Customers table. If I was to view the query at this point in time, I would simply hit the View button to the far left of the ribbon. When I hit the View button, I can see those four columns from that particular table, and I can see there's 91 customers at the bottom of my screen. If I want to go back to the design of the query, I do so in the same way as we'd go back to the design of a table, by hitting the View button to the far left of the ribbon. What I might then decide to do is to sort the results in a certain way. The third row in this grid is called Sort, and where the sort column intersects with, say, the country, I can click if I want to sort by country. And I'll hit the drop down and I'll choose Ascending. If I then hit the View button to view my query, I'll see I have those four columns sorted in ascending order by country and a total of 91 records. If I go back to the View button, I can return to the design of my query. Now what I'd like to do is use the Criteria row, and the Criteria row is basically used to pull out certain records from that 91 total collection. If I'm after those customers that come from the country UK, I will simply type the criteria UK against the country column. When I then go to view my query by hitting the View button, I can see I'm just seeing 7 records at the bottom of my screen because only 7 records come from the UK. If I go back to the design view by hitting the View button, I might decide that I don't actually need to show UK even though I want it to influence my answer. So the fourth row is the Show row, and I'll untick the Show button. So I'm still wanting to sort by country and I'm still wanting just the UK, but I don't need to show that column. So when I view my results by hitting the View button, I can see I've still got those 7 records. They're all from the UK, but I don't need to see UK repeated down a country column. If I hit my View button, I return to the design of my query. And I'll re-tick the Show option. What I might like to do now is actually save this query. If I click the Save button on my Quick Access toolbar, I can save this query, QRY, as UK Customers. And I'll click OK. What I have now in my navigation pane in my list of queries, alphabetically sorted, is QRY UK Customers. If I now close this query, at any point in time, if I need a list of UK customers, all I do is double click this query. And those will be my UK customers at that point in time. So if I've had any new customers added or any customers changed or deleted, that is the result at that point in time. So I'll close that. What I'd like to do now is create another new query. So I'm going to go to the Create tab in my ribbon, and I'm going to go to Query Design. I might add my Customers table, and then close. I'll resize it so I can see more clearly what's in this table. I'll choose the company name, contact name, city, and country fields again. And I'll sort them again by country. This time I want to add a different criteria. This time I'm after those customers from the USA, so I type USA. And I view my query result. And there are 13, according to the bottom of my screen, 13 records that come from the USA. You really have to understand your data to be able to effectively query it. For example, if the country had actually been entered as America or United States of America, I would have had to type my criteria and said America, not USA. So you have to understand your data to be able to effectively create a criteria. What if I want all the customers that come from a country that begins with A? I'm going to go back to the design of my query and I'm going to change the criteria. I'm just going to hit down arrow, up arrow, delete. This time, if I want all the customers that come from a country that begins with A, then I start with an A and I put a star. A star is known as a wildcard, which means that you're looking for all the countries that have a value that begins with A, and any number of characters could happen after the A. This means begins with A. If I then view that, I can see that I have got a total of 5 customers from a country that begin with A, Austria and Argentina primarily. What if I want all the customers who come from a country that ends with A? I'll go back to View, press the up arrow, delete, and I'll put an A at the end, so star A, which means ends with A. Oops, star A. If I then view my result, I can see I have a total of 25 customers: Argentina, Austria, Canada, USA and Venezuela. All of these customers come from a country that ends with A. What if I'm after all the customers who come from a country that have an A in it? If I go back to the view and I take out this particular criteria, I can ask for star A star, which means has an A in it. And if I view my results, a total of 75 out of 91 customers come from countries that have an A in it. And as I scan down through these countries, they all contain an A somewhere. What if I want to know which customers come from a country that does not have an A in it? I'll go back to the design of my query by hitting the View button. I'll take out the criteria and I'll put not space star A star, which means does not have an A in it. And if I hit the View button to view my results, I can see a total of 16 customers come from countries that do not have an A in it: Belgium, Mexico, Sweden and the UK. What if I'm after all those customers that come from a certain city, perhaps Buenos Aires, and I'm not too sure how to spell it? What I'll do is I'll go back to the design of my query by hitting the View button. I'll take out the criteria against country because Buenos Aires is a city. And I'll put what I do know, which is B-U-E, and then maybe a star. So this has given me all the records where the city begins with B-U-E. And when I view my results, I can see there are 3 customers that come from Buenos Aires, 3 cities that begin with B-U-E. The same is true as if I wanted all the customers that come from a city, Rio de Janeiro, and again I wasn't too sure how to spell it. I could use my wildcard or my star. So I'll go back to View, I'll take out the criteria, put what I do know, which is Rio, and a star. And so this will give me all the records where the city begins with Rio. And when I go View, I can see I have 3 customers from Rio de Janeiro. What I might like to do is save this particular query, so I'll click the Save button on my Quick Access toolbar, and I'll save this query as QRY Rio Customers. And OK. When I look at my navigation pane, I can see that I have a query called Query Rio Customers. If I close this particular query, whenever I need a list of Rio de Janeiro customers, all I do is double-click this query and any customers at that point in time from that city will be shown to me, and I could then print them. But I'll close that query.